Hello, YouTube and fellow citizens. It is I, the sovereign citizen, here again, and we got a back-to-back upload. We got two uploads in a row, and I don't know how long that's gonna last. So, Charlottesville. I've been thinking about it for quite a while. I've been thinking about it ever since it happened, like since 2 nights ago when they were chanting blood and soil, and you will not replace us. And I thought, okay, so they're just going to be a bunch of fucking edgelords. They're going to be like comical and all that. And then yesterday happened. Someone died, or three people died. Two cops in a helicopter crash, and one person in I would say it's act of terrorism, but you can call it whatever you want to call it with the car. Um, and I've just been doing some research, and Alex Jones popped up in my suggested. So I watched it. It was about an hour-long rant about Charlottesville. And he had Millie Weaver and a camera guy on the ground at Charlottesville, so there's eyewitness reports there and some reporting. Um, and he made some good points, and those points made me put on another lens to look at this differently. And one of the points is that someone on the left, whether it be the ACLU, the ADL, the Southern Poverty Law Center, Soros, any globalist, any like Antifa themselves, they set this up. They're the ones that had a bunch of fake white supremacists lead. They probably paid them off. They just had them lead and go in and lead the right into a bloodbath. And then they got me to thinking that maybe Richard Spencer himself is getting paid by Soros to be like this. Because we know how Soros works. He divides people in order to destabilize the government. We saw that during the Arab Spring. So maybe he's on all sides of this. He's paying off the white supremacists. He's paying off Black Lives Matter and Antifa. He's paying off the cops to allow them to fight and continue to bolster this. He's paying the municipalities to have the cops stand down. So maybe we should look at this as there's someone causing a divide in this country or making that divide bigger. Because under the Obama administration, a racial divide was created. I wouldn't say he created it, but he definitely didn't do enough to stop it. And now Trump is left dealing with that racial divide, and Charlottesville is an example of what that racial divide produces. Now, Israel, and I believe it's Hungary, have both banned Soros. And if the state of Israel bans a Jew, that says a lot about this Jew. Just this. It's not that he's a Jew in general. I think he's a communist. He's one of those Trotsky-esque Jews. They were called the Bolshevik Jews. That's why Hitler fucking hated communism, because he thought it was a Jewish invention. But yeah, he somehow he followed communism too much. I digress. So Israel bans George Soros. Doesn't that mean we should also ban George Soros, since Israel is one of our closest allies? Like, if George Soros is bad enough for them to ban, we should ban him too. We should stop. We should not allow his money to come into the country. We should actually prosecute him for some of the fucking shit he's done. So, going back a little bit, we are now seeing a full front, like 4 fronts into creating this stupid race war that's going to drag even more innocents into. You got the media hyping up everything. Like, they're just stoking a fire. you got a bunch of whack job right wingers coming out of their shacks in Alabama to stop cities from taking down Confederate statues. Which I agree that we should preserve history, and I'm not necessarily on the side of the city. I'm not necessarily on the side of the cities, or I'm not on the side of the Confederate people. I just believe that if they were American, believe it or not, Confederates were American, um, and they died because constituent, they're I guess constituents, but they're rulers, if you will, their representatives decided to bring them into a war. They had no decision. They didn't own slaves. Only 1.6% of the population owned slaves at the height of slavery. So it wasn't like they were fighting to keep their own slaves. They were fighting because their representatives and their government told them to do so. And I agree that we shouldn't be destroying these statues of soldiers and generals, but the politicians that brought them into the war, yeah, maybe we can replace them with a soldier or a general. Robert E. Lee didn't hold slaves. He hated slavery. He didn't own any slaves. So I don't understand why he's a symbol of racism when he did not own any slaves. He was just fighting for the succession. And they saw Abraham Lincoln as a tyrant. Augustus Invictus. We'll go deeply into that. I mean, I'd have to get into that mindset to think Lincoln was a tyrant, but again, I digress. I said in my previous video that those who were waving Nazi flags or swastikas or wearing swastikas or tattooed with swastikas, they're not real right-wingers. They need to understand that. Go fucking vote Democrat if you believe that shit. Because the Democrats are the real racists. As I've said time and time again, Republicans voted for abolitionism, voted for the civil rights movement. They voted for giving former slaves citizenship and voting rights. It's not the Republicans that are racist. It's not the Republican Party has had a good track record of not being racist. It's the Democrat Party that created the KKK and the Confederacy. So if you believe the South will rise again, go be a fucking Dixiecrat. All right? The Republican Party has no room for you. And the Republican Party, you should start saying this. You should start saying that to those who think that the Confederacy was a good idea or secession was the best idea. Become a Dixiecrat. Reform the Dixiecrats. All right? Fucking resurrect Goldwater. Hillary can run the Dixiecrats because she was a Dixiecrat herself. All right? The right wing, libertarians and actual conservatives like Ben Shapiro and Gavin McInnes, and even Milo Yiannopoulos, he's libertarian. Those three that are so different in their own ways are all right wingers, true right wingers. All right, they don't believe in stupid ideologues like some of the people do on the right. Well, not on the right, but the fake right wingers. So now that I'm done bashing the fake right wingers for the umpteenth time, let's go on to the left and their virtue signaling. All I've seen on Twitter, all I've seen on Instagram, and all I've seen on Facebook is virtue signaling about that one chick that got killed in the car crash. And there's been a lot of fake news going around. And that James Alex Shields, whatever his fucking scumbag name is, I'm going to go out and say it. I believe he was paid off by Soros or by the ADL or by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Because I don't believe a true right-winger. Now, they said his teacher, they say his teacher confirmed that he was a Nazi sympathizer. And I like how in the report in 2016 he registered as Republican for the 2016 election, but he's like 30. No, he's not. He's like 20. Nah. All right. He's like 28. I think he was born in 90. I was born in 98. So, yeah, he's like 28 or 27. Depends. So that means he was alive for at least 2 elections. All right, at the very least 1. And that means he probably voted for Obama because he's from Ohio, and Ohio voted Democrat against Mitt Romney. So that just because someone goes Republican, this is also another caveat. Just because someone votes Republican doesn't mean they voted Trump. They could have easily voted for Mike Huckabee. They could have easily voted for Ben Carson or Marco Rubio or Jeb Bush or Ted Cruz or Rand Paul. I highly doubt Rand Paul because Rand Paul just is not the type of person that would bring Nazi sympathizers. Nazis had complete control over what people did and said and read and whatever. Rand Paul just wants freedom. Shout out to Rand Paul, I guess, if that's what this is becoming. So we as a country should recognize that we are being played. We are being played by globalists like Soros, Rothschilds, Rockefellers. We're being played by the establishment, by the mainstream media. We are being played by identity politics. It's all those people that are fuming this race war. This idea that we can have a race war. Like I said, I truly believe Soros is paying Richard Spencer. I truly believe. Well, we know Soros pays Antifa, and we know Soros pays Black Lives Matter. We know MSM is in bed with Rockefeller, Rothschild, and Soros. They're in bed with MSM. Even Fox News is playing into this. Oh, we need white people are the problem. Blah blah blah. When fucking what was it? April. So yeah. So it was 4 months ago when a Muslim extremist drove Islamist. I should start saying Islamist. Drove his van into a shopping mall in Sweden. Killed an 11-year-old deaf girl. Her name was Ebba Akaland. I saw no virtue signaling on the left. They called the band cars. Not Muslims. Trump called the band Muslims. Because too many times have we seen these Islamists come in and kill people, kill natives, or kill like just the native population of England, of Sweden, of Germany, with knives, bombs, not even guns, because all those countries have fucking tight gun control, cars. Britain's calling for a knife ban. I'm pretty sure there's probably something going on in Sweden calling for a car ban. All right. We cannot fall victim to virtue signaling. Yes, the chick that died, that was tragic. All right. But where was the left when Eva Akaland, or I'm sorry if I mispronounce her name. have a tough time pronouncing Northern European names. Where were they when she needed help? Where were they when she needed identification and recognition? They were using the hashtag not all Muslims. Pray for Sweden. But now it's, oh, white people are the problem. And Antifa, Black Lives Matter, open society. They all ask for open borders. Well, guess what? There's more of that. There's more of what happened in Charlottesville if you have open borders and many more migrants. All right. We should focus on the problem now. The current racial divide, the current ideological divide. You have Marxists, Black Lives Matter, and Antifa in open society versus white supremacist groups and Richard Spencer and just other like Vanguard America. And then it's a fucking three-way against libertarians, actual conservatives, and Kekistanis. Ironically, I guess. I must remind you, the left started this violence in Berkeley, in Portland, in Alexandria, Virginia. They started the violence. But when the right, or I'll call them the fringe right, the alt-right, as Richard Spencer likes to coin the term, it's alt-right versus alt-light versus fucking Marxist left. Oh, I should say left. It's not even alt-left. The left has just become a bunch of Marxists. But the alt-right, when the alt-right strikes back, you cry. I'm glad no one from the alt-light was there. I did not see any Kekistani flags. I'm glad that no actual conservative or actual libertarian. I saw a couple of Gadsden flags, but I think Confederate people use that, like Southern secessioners use that because they don't know what it means. Don't tread on me is for everyone. Black, white, Latino, even Arab or Asian. The Gadsden flag is a snake for a reason and not a white fist or a black fist. All right, we're all the snake. If you remember the propaganda that happened during the Revolutionary War, of the snake cut into pieces, with the 13 colonies, New Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Maryland, Virginia. I think I already said Virginia. The snake was symbolic because we cannot be divided. And I remember I saw a poster for that event on social media for the Unite the Right event. I remember seeing it, and it was that same picture of the snake cut into pieces, but instead of the states, it was Kekistan, anti-communist action, the alt-right, the alt-light, libertarian, Republican, anti-Trumpers, pro-Trumpers. It was supposed to be for everyone, but it got hijacked by white supremacists. I'll be the first one to say it. America is not a white country. America was not made for whites. All right, that idea ended 1865. All right, we are all created equal in this country. No matter your skin color, your creed, your ancestry, your race, your gender. All right? We need to start treating each other as equals. We could talk about Europe some other time. Yes, Europe belongs to Europeans and not fucking Middle Easterners or Asians. All right? I will always agree that Europe belongs to Europeans. But America is a melting pot. And we could talk about what it means to be a melting pot. because when with dealing with immigration, with like Mexican immigration or South American immigration, it's a melting pot. Like, you give some of your culture in, it gets mixed, and then you take some back. You take some of our culture. Our culture is mainly English. Our culture is paying taxes. Our culture is being a productive human in society, not collecting welfare. That's probably what I should have said. When the Italians, Germans, and Irish came to the United States in the 19th century and the early 20th century, they didn't wave their own flags in protest against the United States. They worked their asses off and they learned English. The Italians, look at New York City. All those skyscrapers were built or designed by at least one Italian. If you look at the Midwest, if you look at Minnesota, if you look at Wisconsin, that was built up by the Germans. If you look at Boston, if you look at Philadelphia, a lot of Irish, and they built those places up too. All right, it's you provide for this country, and the country will give back. All right. So we need to get rid of this idea that America is for white people, and we also have to get rid of the idea that that white people are evil. All right. Both sides are creating this fucking idiotic dilemma. It's creating a race war, and it needs to end. We need to like I said, unify as one, realize we're being controlled by people higher than us. Unity destroys people like George Soros. Because once we unify around the idea or the fact that he is a piece of fucking garbage, and we need to prosecute him, he will be in the shadows forever. He'll die in the shadows. He won't be as open as he is today. That says probably just as much as I would like to say for today. I'll check my Twitter to see if anything else comes to mind. To those that are outraged by what the alt-right did with the alt-right and the white supremacists, I'm not saying both are the same, but both were there and they both participated in the torch holding. If anyone's outraged by that, but they were not outraged at what Black Lives Matter did to Ferguson, Missouri, Baltimore, Maryland. Let's see, where else was there a fucking riot? I think Milwaukee was one of them, Minneapolis. If you're not outraged by that, then you're part of the same problem by those that are not outraged by the torch holding. So recognize the problem. It's the globalists like George Soros. All right. We need to unify as one. We need to unify as America. We need to unify as patriots to stay sovereign. That's why my name is the Sovereign Citizen, because I care about sovereignty. I care about not being controlled by another government, by this EU type government. Just a bunch of bureaucrats and nothing, and it just makes life worse. I don't want to be controlled by a bunch of fucking communists. All right? So just think for yourselves for once. Don't listen to the media. Don't listen to everyone on fucking Twitter that's virtue signaling. Think for yourselves. Yes, it's good to go look at other opinions. Formulate your own off of what you see, though. Look at what happened there. you can obviously see that the police brought the right-wingers, the alt-right, and the white supremacists, and anyone else in the crowd that doesn't go by that identity, they brought them to the wolves. Antifa and Black Lives Matter were waiting for them. They were going to put them in a fishbowl like they did in Berkeley. But the difference between Berkeley and Charlottesville is that it was about free speech, not racism or not whiteness and not identitarian politics or identity politics. All right. It wasn't about identity politics. It was about free speech versus suppression of free speech. The closer we figure out that free speech is key, that we figure out that we need to protect free speech before it's taken away in acts like this. The quicker we realize that, the quicker we can unify. I'm the Sovereign Citizen, and remember to stay free out there, everyone.